If you're over 40 and terrified about starting a new career, I need you to hear this. God is with you. Whether you were laid off, realized you weren't growing, or you're just ready for something more meaningful, that fear you're feeling, it's normal. We're not talking about a spirit of fear. We're just talking about the emotion of fear. It's normal. And in this episode, I'm going to help you grow through it. Hey sis, I'm Tanaya, and if you're a Christian woman navigating career transitions after 40, you're in the right place. I've been through multiple life transitions and career transitions myself, and I want to share some biblical wisdom and practical steps that got me through the fear and into God's plan for my next chapter. So, first up is to accept that it's going to be uncomfortable. That's the first truth that I can say is there's no way around it. I wish I could sugarcoat it for you and make it all pretty with a bow on top of it, but I cannot. It's going to be uncomfortable, and that's okay. The thing is, when you're going through your career change, you have to condition your mind to know it will be uncomfortable because God is wanting to grow and stretch you through it. But the way that you can kind of combat that is to go back to your why. And that is what gets me back into my next point. Understand your why. Why did you decide to make this career change? Think about it. Maybe you were laid off, but you know that God was saying, okay, that season of that career has been done. Now I want you to shift into a new industry, or some of you may be shifting into a new occupation. So think about that. Why? Is it that you want more meaningful work? Do you want to have something that aligns with your purpose? Do you want to break generational cycles, or you're just tired of the financial struggles? Or maybe it could be all of that, but you want something that really aligns with this new stage in your life because what you wanted at 20 is probably what you wanted at 30. And now being in your 40s is probably something different than you wanted in your 30s. So think about what is that? What is your why? What is the reason that you are starting out on this journey? And what I want you to understand too is think about the Israelites in the Bible. When God brought them out of Egypt, they complained, they were unbelieving, and an entire generation missed entering the promised land. They didn't know how to embrace that transition. So don't let that be you. I want you to focus on, okay, how can I shift my mindset? I'm no longer in Egypt because Egypt is not comfortable for me. Or excuse me, Egypt was comfortable for me, but now God is telling me, okay, I have something better for you. And the transition, so many people lose it during the transition. They're not able to shift their mindset for where God is taking them. I was there. I can tell you so many times, like I've said, I've had many life transitions, career transitions, and one of the things that I would always do when it got tough, when it got uncomfortable, I didn't go back to my why. I didn't accept that, okay, this is going to be uncomfortable. I ran. I ran away from what God was leading me towards, and I went back to what was familiar, and it always ended up being a worse situation. So I want to encourage you. It wasn't until I left out of that mindset and said, okay, I'm going to grow through this no matter how tough it is, because I know that God is with me and He's going to be bring that growth that He wants to bring in my life. And so there were many times that it took for me to pray often. I have to pray in any transition. Before the transition, after the transition, I am saying pray, 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 pray. Because when you're in those uncomfortable situations, you really have to talk it through with God and invite the Holy Spirit into your transition. You have to ask God to help you to calm down and pray for the strength to grow through it instead of shrinking back and running away from something that you know that He's calling you to do. And I always look at it like this, and I don't know if this is a negative thing to look at, but once we get past 40, we do realize that, okay, we have, and for some of us, we might have wasted a lot of, our 20s and 30s for some of us. Okay. If you like me, you probably didn't wasted some years, and it's like, you look at those years that were wasted and you think to yourself, I'm going to make these next years count. However long God has me on this earth, I'm going to make these next years count. When I think of the verse in Psalms 90, I think it's 12 or 21, but he says, teach me to number my days so that I may have a heart of wisdom. And that just speaks to me because it reminds me that we need to number our days. We need to be intentional with every day because we don't know what God has for us and we don't know how long we will be on this earth. And so it's important for us to impact the way that God has designed us to. So when you are going through a moment where you feel weak or you feel like you're about to run back to what's familiar, I don't know what that familiarity is. I don't know what that Egypt is for you. I don't know if it's a toxic relationship. I don't know if it's the same industry that you were in or it's the same specific job that you were in before and you're wanting to go back to that because you're thinking to yourself, I know this. I know that I can do this. I can rock it. This is my thing, and I'm going to go back to that. I want to encourage you with Hebrews 4:15 through 16. This is one of my favorite scriptures, and it says, for we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in every way as we are, yet without sin. Therefore, let us approach the throne of grace with boldness so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. So think about that. Jesus is our high priest. He has been tempted in every way, right? He's been tempted to run away from the call of God. He's been tempted to just throw in the towel and say, I don't want to go in that direction because it seems uncomfortable. Even when we think about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane and how he was praying for the cup to pass from him. And then he said, nevertheless, thy will be done, not my will, but thy will be done. And so it's similar, right? He knows he can relate to what you're experiencing in this moment. He understands the nervousness you're experiencing. He understands the fear that may be trying to come upon you because you are about to just do something that you've never done before and you're about to just follow God. He gets that. But what he says, don't give in to that, right? What you're going to do is approach the throne of grace with boldness to ask for help in that moment. And what does that look like practically? That simply looks like, okay, I am in this job right now, Lord, and this all seems overwhelming for me. This is something new, and it is something that I feel so uncomfortable with. And you can be more specific with that. But saying to him, I feel so uncomfortable with, I don't want to run away from this, but I don't know how to grow through this. Lord, please help me in this moment because I want to make sure that what I'm doing glorifies you, God. I want to make sure that I am glorifying you in my actions and in how I handle this situation. So please help me. And one of the promises that I appreciate is that he says that you will find grace to help us in time of need. So we will find grace to help us in our time of need. Next point is there will be a learning curve. I don't care how you look at it, there will be. There will be one, okay? And I'm going to keep it real with y'all. I have experienced that learning curve, girl. And I will just say this, and I don't know if any of you can relate to me, but learning in my 20s is completely different from learning in my 40s. If you know, you know. And so, with that in mind, it's important to know the best way that you learn, especially when you're going into a new job. I think that's what's important because even in my 20s and 30s, when I was learning, I just kind of took the training styles of the people that were training me. And I didn't really navigate my training process the way that was the best fit for me. I didn't shape it in the way that was the best fit for me. And what I mean by that is when I'm learning something new, I take notes and then I have to organize those notes. I have to be able to easily find the information. So that may be putting something in a OneNote or putting something on a Google Doc so I can have easy access, putting my links there, but organizing in a way that helps me either learn the information or know where to go to get the information. And I believe that that is really important. So you have to set up things in a way that best helps you learn. Of course, they're going to have a structure depending on the type of job that you have, right? So they may have a structure for the training, but it's you have to take control of how you're processing that information and then know like okay I'm going to put this information in this type of document, in this type of order, and that will help me to make it work for my brain and the company's policies. So that is definitely important. Just learn that, okay, there's going to be a learning curve, but how do I structure my resources? How do I structure my study materials? How do I structure what I'm learning about the company and the policies and the procedures in a way that best suits me to have that access to easily navigate to it? And then show yourself some grace. I've been hearing that more recently as I've just started a new career. And it's like when I started, they kept saying, show yourself some grace. And I realized that's what you're going to have to do. You're learning something new. If you think about it, if your child came to you and maybe they're learning something new in their life, right? They're learning how to play a new sport, they're learning a new hobby. How are you going to respond to them when they make a mistake or when they don't grasp it as quickly as they want to grasp it? Are you going to yell at them and tell them they need to get it and go off? Or are you going to tell them it's okay, it's going to take time? Here, let's just focus on this right here, then we'll move on to that. It's the same concept. Show yourself some grace because it's going to take time to adjust. Think about your last job. You didn't get that last job, all the information right away. It took a couple weeks. It took sometimes it may take a few months, depending on the complexity of the role, but it took time for you to get it. And once you got it, you got it. And so that's the same process and mindset that I want you to take with you in this next role. It's just really realize that you're going to get it. God did not leave you, or God did not bring you this far to not get it. You will get it. And so just trust him in the process of that and continue to say your prayers, girl. Say those prayers because I believe that is going to help you. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Hopefully you are in a supportive culture and depending on that position there are the foundational things that they probably want you to already know, that foundational knowledge. But when it comes to policies, procedures, after you've researched and maybe you didn't find the answer, it's okay to ask and find out the way that it needs to be done, how they want it done. And one of my favorite phrases, which is going to be point number 7, is something that I really just started using. And I want to say I have to believe that it was the Holy Spirit. But anytime I find myself in a challenging situation and feeling overwhelmed with something that I'm doing new, I will say, I'm going to grow through this. Even if I'm talking to my friend and I'm telling them this is happening and this is a little bit frustrating and this is a lot of information, this is da 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 da. I end with, but it's going to be okay because I know I'm going to grow through this. And so, what that means is that you are abandoning your comfort zone. You are going to grow through this. You are. Look at it, how many things over the course of your life you've grown through, and then we can even look at things that we didn't grow through. How did that work out for us? So anytime that you're going through that challenge and it feels intense, respond by saying, I'm going to grow through this because I know that the Lord has me in this journey. And I want to leave with you Psalm 139. It says that all of our days are planned and written out. And this isn't me paraphrasing. So if you're deciding to be intentional with your career, it's a part of the process. Lean into him as you grow through it. And some of you may be starting a business, maybe starting to put yourself out there with content on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and you're still going to have a learning curve. You're not going to know how to do it. It's not going to be perfect. But the thing is, you're growing through it. If you start now, in a month or two, you're going to look back and see how far you've grown. When I first started using Canva to where I am at now, I'm blown away, but it just started being shaky, doing the little crazy designs, looking a hot mess. But it was still, even when I started resume writing, when I put out that first resume, it was a little like, okay, why are we doing this? Uh-huh, yeah. Do you know what you're doing? But when I look back at like my very first resume and my resumes that I create now for people, I'm like, oh, we elevated. When people are getting six-figure jobs, not everybody, but when I've had clients come to me and say, I've been able to get this position or get into this field, I'm like, okay, so we grew through that process. And it's the same for you. You're going to grow through it. I just truly believe that. And so those are the tips that I have for you. If this resonated with you, I want to hear from you in the comments. Tell me, please tell me, what's your biggest fear about the transition, or what are you nervous about? We're not going to say biggest fear. We're going to say, what are you nervous about during this career change? And then what's your why that's driving you forward? How can you bring yourself back to know, like, this is why I'm doing this? Don't forget to like this video if it helped you and subscribe for more faith-based career guidance for women over 40 who are ready to step into their next chapter. And remember, God didn't bring you this far to leave you now. Your next chapter is going to be beautiful. God bless.